I'm Dr. Cath Watson, and today PD Insurance has asked me to talk to you about chocolate in dogs. Now, most of you will already be aware that chocolate is not good for dogs, but maybe not why. And I'm talking dogs because at the end of the day, cats are much fussier and much less attracted to chocolate, so it's pretty rare to expect that a cat is going to eat chocolate, especially in the quantity that's going to be a problem. But in reality, the same issues do potentially apply. So the reason that chocolate is toxic to dogs is actually a number of reasons. Firstly, it's actually the fat content that can lead to vomiting and diarrhea, and then could potentially lead on to something like pancreatitis, which is pretty serious abdominal pain, vomiting, and can make them really, really sick and potentially cause death as well. But the real reason that we're most concerned about chocolate is because it contains methylxanthines. This is theobromine and caffeine. They basically have the same effects, but theobromine lasts for much longer than caffeine does. So the effects that chocolate have, well, at a really low dose, it may just be vomiting and diarrhea, and that may be more because of the high fat content and the sugar rush that they're going to get from the chocolate. But following on from vomiting and diarrhea, we tend to see hyperactivity, followed by tremors, which may then move on to seizures, abnormal heart rhythms, and ultimately chocolate can certainly cause death in dogs. So what do you do about it? Well, first thing, keep it out of reach. Don't underestimate what their ability to reach places is as well. So it needs to be somewhere secure as well as out of reach, preferably in a pantry that they can't open. If you've got a dog clever enough to open the pantry, make sure it's in a cupboard up high enough that they can't reach, or in something as simple as a sealed container that they can't get into. You also need to make sure you train visitors and kids to keep their chocolate safe, because while you might be schooled up on it, not everybody who visits will be. And those dogs can be super quick. Be the last thing on your mind as you're sitting down for dinner as they sneak off into the other room to steal a little bit of chocolate sitting beside the bedside. If it does happen, don't panic. If you know it's happened and it's happened within the last 4 hours, then the simplest way to treat chocolate toxicity is to make them vomit. Sounds kind of odd when the first thing we expect as a symptom of chocolate toxicity is potentially vomiting. But by making them vomit within that first 4 hours, we've got a reasonable chance of making them bring up a significant amount of the chocolate and limiting the effects and the absorption of those methylxanthines, theobromine and caffeine. The other really important thing to note is how much they've eaten. Even if you have to guesstimate, it's really nice to have some idea of how much they've eaten. And secondly, what type of chocolate. If it's white chocolate, then potentially it's just the high fat content that's going to cause issues, because in reality there are no methylxanthines in white chocolate. But if you're talking baking chocolate or bittersweet chocolate or the super dark chocolate, then a very small amount could have quite a significant impact, particularly if you're talking quite a small dog. Once you know how much and what type of chocolate, the next thing I'd recommend is going online and just Google a chocolate calculator. And what you can do then is put in those details. How much chocolate, what's the weight of your dog, and hopefully you've got some idea, but otherwise jump on the bathroom scales with them, what type of chocolate it is, and that calculator should give you a fair idea of whether the amount of chocolate your dog has consumed is a problem or not. If you don't have access to the internet, or you don't want to muck around doing that, then by all means call your vet. They've usually got access to a chocolate calculator and can give you advice as to whether treatment is needed or not. As I said before, normally the initial treatment is to make them vomit and try and decontaminate as much as we can. Sometimes if it's getting towards the end of that 4 hours, or we know they've eaten a huge amount that has got the potential to be a problem, decontamination may even be taken further. They may need to go on IV fluids, have things like activated charcoal, all to help try and absorb those methylxanthines and prevent them being taken up by the body and potentially having those side effects. If your dog does manage to eat chocolate and it's well past the 4 hours and it's likely to be a problem, then I would definitely be ringing your vet for supportive treatment, because there's still ways of minimising the impacts of those methylxanthines. But you do need to be aware that it can take about 4 days for the effects of that chocolate to pass. So you may have quite a sick dog for that period of time. So I come back to keep it out of reach, keep it safe. Do not underestimate their ability to get access to chocolate. I know how much I like it. I can just imagine how much work a dog is going to put into finding that chocolate too.